Hey guys, Eric here, and I want to talk to you real quick about thedailydownforce.com. Every day, this website covers the latest news and trends in NASCAR, from silly season right through the checkered flag in Phoenix. Need a new morning routine as soon as you wake up? Well, now you have it, dailydownforce.com. This is the website I use to keep up with the industry, the drivers, and of course, what the community is talking about. And speaking of community, dailydownforce.com is also home to some of your other favorite NASCAR content creators. Plus, they've got all sorts of information that I like to keep bookmarked, like schedules, penalties, ratings, and everything you want to know. Oh, and be sure to check out the merch shop while you're there to find some exclusive diecasts and collectibles. So check out dailydownforce.com, that's dailydownforce.com, and I'll see you in the replies.
Hey y'all, Rick Houston here, and I want to tell you about my new show, the Moonshine and Motorsports Racing Podcast. I've partnered up with the state of North Carolina Department of Natural and Cultural Resources to help uncover the history behind moonshining mountain boys, professional wheelmen, and the backwoods and city lights of the Tar Heel State. In the first episode, I sat down with Winston Kelly at the NASCAR Hall of Fame for a little behind-the-scenes gossip about Junior Johnson's engineering skills.
He's got two things in his hand, pipe wrench and channel lock pliers, and they weren't new. They had been around the block a time or two.
Wasn't the first steel they built, I bet.
No. I think the pliers had been red before, but paint had worn off.
And in the second episode, I talked to a professional hillbilly, a.k.a. Dr. Daniel Pierce of UNC Asheville, to find out the real history of moonshiners and their battles with the revenuers.
He wrote about one of his experience of trying to chase down this bootlegger in this souped-up car, and he complained that the government gave him these piece of crap, cheapo cars, and that were really no match, but he thought he was doing pretty good, and then the guy just hits it and just takes off and practically disappeared. But then the guy makes a bootleg turn and comes back towards him. And as he said, it was a game of chicken, and I was a chicken. And so he ran off the road. And actually, he was the guy who caught Junior Johnson at his daddy's steal when Junior got tangled up in a barbed wire fence.
So check out the Moonshine and Motorsports Racing Podcast, available on YouTube, dailydownforce.com, and all of your favorite podcasting platforms. And be sure to check out my regular show on NASCAR history, the Scene Vault Podcast.
Hey there, NASCAR fans. Have you got your copy of the latest edition of NASCAR Pole Position Print Magazine? If not, there's no better time than now to subscribe at polepositionmag.com. NASCAR Pole Position is the only print magazine covering NASCAR. Officially licensed by NASCAR, NASCAR Pole Position Magazine is published throughout the NASCAR season, and each edition is an instant collector's item, packed with great feature stories and photography. The magazine is even mailed to you in a poly bag for those who love to collect NASCAR memorabilia. At polepositionmag.com, you can even find past issues available to purchase. Get your subscription to NASCAR Pole Position and get great NASCAR content delivered straight to your mailbox throughout the season. Learn more at polepositionmag.com. That's polepositionmag.com.
Eric Estep here. One of my favorite parts of being a NASCAR fan is collecting diecasts. It's how I got my start on YouTube, actually. To me, a room is not complete until it features shelves of NASCAR diecast cars. It's as good a time as ever to continue your collection or begin an all-new one by pre-ordering your favorite driver's 2022 next-gen diecast at lionelracing.com or at any authorized Lionel retailer. Lionel is the official diecast of NASCAR, and don't miss Lionel Racing's NASCAR Authentics diecasts at a Walmart or Target near you. Not only is Lionel the official diecast of NASCAR, but they're also official supporters of the Out of the Groove podcast network. So what are you waiting for? Head to lionelracing.com to order your favorite driver's 2022 diecast.
Hello, folks. I am Joshua Lepowski, and welcome into a brand new episode of Next Gen Creators, a daily downforce podcast where we talk to the next generation of NASCAR content creators. Joshua Lepowski here with you once again. Be sure, before you listen to this episode, be sure you head to dailydownforce.com for some great daily NASCAR content, and also be sure to follow us on social media at Daily Downforce on Twitter and Instagram, also the Daily Downforce on Facebook as well. Also, if you have any article ideas or DMs are open on Twitter as well, be sure to send that our way as well. Keep an eye out for some great NASCAR content on the dailydownforce.com. And we want to welcome you into the next episode here of Next Gen Creators. Today we have Bologna Burger here with us today. Bologna Burger, a very interesting content creator. He does a lot of shorter form NASCAR news YouTube videos, and he also does some work on the side working on late models as well. So he has a very well-rounded, interesting life and a lot of interesting things that he is involved in. And he's also someone that really values his community. That's the biggest thing that he talks about in this interview when it comes to YouTube, is he talks about the community and how great it is to have the community that he has. So without further ado, here is Next Gen Creators with Bologna Burger. And now it is time to welcome in Bologna Burger into Next Gen Creators. I'm Joshua Lepowski here with you, your host, alongside Bologna Burger here today. And, Kyle, thank you so much here for joining us here today and for becoming the next guest here on Next Gen Creators.
Hey, thanks for having me, man.
Absolutely. So I guess we'll just start off with, the simplest of all. How did you get into NASCAR and motorsports in general? Because you are you're more than just a NASCAR fan in and of itself. You are also involved in your local short track scene as well, as I understand it. So you've been quite involved with racing for quite a long time. So how did you get into it?
How far back do you want to go? So my dad named me after Kyle Petty. His best friend growing up was a guy named Billy Chandler. Billy Chandler worked for Hendrick Motorsports. He did the tire pressures for Tim Richmond, or he was a tire specialist for Tim Richmond, and later on Jeff Gordon. And even as Billy, he's basically, as last I checked, still doing it. Lane Riggs just won the national championship in late models. That was Lane Riggs tire specialist. So he's still out there getting it done. So at a very young age, I was introduced to the sport. My dad, my grandpa, we all would go to the house on Sundays and watch it. So I guess technically that's how I got into it. Now let's just fast forward and skip all the boring stuff of growing up. And then I was in community college, and there's the capstone for finishing out your degree or whatever. So we decided to build an electric car. And the selling point was we get to race at Indianapolis. So my first race at Indianapolis, we built an electric car. It used you're trying to make it as efficient as possible. So it was an endurance race. We used a motor from a electric wheelchair. I think the electric wheelchair company was trying to get more efficient with their stuff. So they were sort of leaning on that technology. So that was the first car I built. And then from there, I worked my regular job, but I got hooked up with a late model team, basically through a roundabout way through doing all that. And then, the rest is just, we were doing a late model podcast for a while, and that didn't work. I don't want to get into that, but that didn't work out. And so I ended up with my YouTube channel. That channel got deleted or whatever, I guess. So, I had the YouTube channel. So I was like, well, just do a clean start and I'll start talking about NASCAR. So here we are. It randomly one day took off. For the longest time, there was nothing. So that's one thing. A lot of people are like, how do you get started? I was like, well, most people just get started. It's going to be nothing for a long, long time. So don't get discouraged by that. And then, as you keep going, you'll get better. And my earlier videos were terrible. Don't get me wrong. As you keep going, it'll pick up.
Well, I think that's pretty accurate for the way a lot of people are, is just, it takes time to develop something on YouTube. It takes time to develop things like that. And you're definitely an example of that. And that's true. So, your YouTube videos, as I've watched them, the thing that strikes me about them is that your YouTube videos are very short and sweet. It's kind of like Eric Estep does Out of the Groove, talks about the same newsy type of stuff that you do, but he does it in a longer form. You tend to keep your videos in a much shorter form. Where did that come about?
So the first, I guess, NASCAR YouTube channel I ever watched was Danny B. And I was like, I can't do sort of like the history stuff like Danny B does because I don't know. I couldn't do it as good as him in my mind, I guess. And then I saw Eric Estep stuff. And at the time I was working at a factory and doing the late model stuff. So in the factory, it's so loud, you only got like 15-minute breaks, and then you got a 30-minute for lunch. So time was like of the essence. I was like, well, I wonder, like, if somebody did like shorter like YouTube videos, sort of like people are probably not familiar with newspapers today, but there used to be like newspapers that got really in depth. Then there was USA Today. USA Today was like the 5 minutes of like the 5-minute version of news. And so I was thinking about that. Then I was sitting at a ironically, and just weird enough, like I was sitting at a gas station one day, and the little screen that pops up, this is the Cheddar News or whatever. I was like, that's it. Like I could do like the gas station news version of sort of like NASCAR news. And I was like, if I try to keep it under 5 minutes, because me and my buddy always talk about, I was like, if a video is over 5 minutes, we're typically not watching it at the factory because we're trying to get as many videos in as we can during break. So that's pretty much the gist of that. I was at a gas station and I saw the Cheddar News pop up, and I was like, I should do that for NASCAR on YouTube.
That's pretty funny, watching those little gas station, news clips and stuff like that. And it is interesting how, like, how social media is evolving, how like shorter form content is becoming, more and more, I guess you could say it's becoming more common nowadays with the rise of things like TikTok and things like that. Like, I mean, people like to be able to get their news and to get their information in a very short form, short, concise, and just move on, that sort of stuff. And that's kind of the demographic you're looking to, even though, you're thinking about it from the aspect of someone being a factory worker on a 15-minute break that just wants to know, here's the cliff notes, here's everything you need to know about what's going on in the world of NASCAR.
Yeah, for sure. And so, I think eventually we'll see some TikTokers and stuff like that, and people that are doing shorts. I think you'll see that they might already be out there. Like I'm just not aware of them type deal. But I think that'll eventually take off too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. Have you ever thought about moving some of your content over to like platforms like that at some point?
I think about it, and it's one of those things. I think about it. I know I should do it, but I need to come up with a game plan. And it's kind of like at this point I would want to practice it. So I'd probably make like a burner channel and practice it for a little while. And then when I felt like I was decent at it, because 1 minute, man, squeezing that stuff into like 1 minute, that's like or I guess what am I thinking of? 1 minute is 1 minute for YouTube shorts. So 1 minute, that would be a challenge. But I think if you practiced it enough, it's easily doable. It would just be something you would have to practice. And if I ever got it polished, I think that would be the key. Maybe something I can work on the off season.
Mm-hmm. Well, that would be interesting to watch without a doubt. And so, as during your time, being a YouTuber, when was kind of that first time when you felt like things were going to be, when you felt like you were going to start having success on YouTube more so than it just being a hobby for you at that time?
Oh man, that is a crazy good question because YouTube for me personally, YouTube was such a journey. I remember the first time I got like 19 views. I was like, oh man, we're killing it this week. And then it's like you get your first 100 view video, then you get your first 500 view video, and then I don't know. There was one video I made that I never thought it would like do anything different than my other videos did. It was like I think it was like Christopher Bell and Kyle Larson had made contact or something. And I was just talking about that one. That one got 11,000 views. And so I was like, oh man, we're going now. Then my next video was like 500 views. So like it was a process, but eventually, I don't know. I think last year I got a video that had 100,000 views. So that was my first 100,000 view video. So for me, it hasn't ever been like one that really just like took off and went crazy. All my stuff is just sort of constantly built. So I don't know. I just set sort of performance marks and stuff like that. But I guess that Christopher Bell video was the most surprised. I was like, oh my goodness, it's like 11,000 people have watched this video. Like that just to me blew my mind at that time because like I said, I think the most I'd gotten before that was maybe 500.
Wow, that's interesting. Yeah, it is interesting how videos can kind of just pop off kind of out of nowhere, and it's not it may not be the videos that you expect that are going to pop off. That can happen sometimes, and that's always something to look for. So where did the name Bologna Burger, which is a very interesting, first of all, it sounds like an interesting sandwich, but secondly, where did that name in and of itself come about throughout your time where did the name Bologna Burger come out?
So everybody knows about the Martinsville hot dog. If you're a baseball fan, people know about Dodger dogs. Well, where I grew up around South Boston, Orange County, and Ace Speedway, were the local short tracks that I went to. That's sort of their version of the Dodger dog or the Martinsville hot dog. You would get a Bologna burger, and each one of them has their different style, right? So if you go to Ace Speedway, the Ace Speedway style is sort of like a chili dog. You put chili, mustard, and onion on it, if I'm not mistaken. I always get mine the South Boston like style way. But Orange County was grilled onions and mustard, and then South Boston is grilled onions, mustard, and green peppers. All that grilled. So it's just sort of I don't know. A lot of people, it's funny though, because I get that question a lot. A lot of people are like, oh, we thought you were like a food truck or you were like a cooking channel or something. And we tuned in and you're like NASCAR news. Like, well, we didn't know you were NASCAR news. But we kind of like it. So I have gotten a few like crossovers like that. And like a long time ago, like way back in the day, 500 views day, I did do a video of how to make a bologna burger in each one of those styles.
Interesting. So you would argue that the South Boston is the definitive place to get a bologna burger. Am I not mistaken in that?
That's the most famous, but as a little kid going with my dad, we lived we were like 5 minutes away from Orange County at the time. So Orange County is when I think of a bologna burger, I think about that in my head. But I do, like, as I get older, like as a little kid, mustard and grilled onions, I was good with that. But as you get older, your taste buds change and stuff like that. I do like the little bit of extra the grilled peppers in it, and also something they're doing different at South Boston now. You can get nacho cheese on top. Like, it's bad enough for you, so you might as well put the nacho cheese on it anyway. So the nacho cheese with the green peppers and the grilled onions. That's probably my favorite right now.
Well, it's so interesting. I mean, a question, since I'm not familiar with what a bologna burger is, like, what does do they like put like bologna into a burger patty, or is it just like straight bologna that you fry that you put on a burger bun? Is that how it works?
So yeah, you cut. It's a pretty thick slice. I think I want to say Ace Speedways is the thickest, but they're all pretty thick. But Ace Speedways is the thickest, so depending on how you like it. So you take that big thick cut and you cut like three slots in it. You throw it on there. You fry it until it's got like a little bit of blackened, a little bit of a char look to it. Then you throw it on a potato bun, just like a regular hamburger bun or whatever. And then you put all the toppings are always grilled. You never want to put raw anything on it. You saute or grill the toppings, throw them on there, and then I always got to hit it with mustard. Somebody did say something to me. You should try brown mustard on it. I haven't tried brown mustard on it. I feel like that makes it a little too healthy feeling to me, so I just go with the regular yellow mustard. But I do need to try it with brown mustard.
That sounds interesting. So you're saying, so this is the definitive short track concession stand item. Is that your agreement with that? Like, it's better than the Martinsville hot dog, better than the pizza burger at Eldora, which I've had before. This is the definitive.
I need to go check out the pizza burger at Eldora. I can't say it's definitive. All I can say is, like, you go to Martinsville, you get a hot dog. If you go to Ace Speedway, Orange County, or South Boston, definitely get the bologna burger there. If you go to Langley, you need to get the I think they call them redneck fries, which is like a scoop of pork, and then like it's chili cheese fries with a scoop of pork, which doesn't necessarily sound good, but it's one of the best things you'll ever eat.
That's very interesting. By the way, the pizza burger is very good at Eldora. I've had that before. That's a delicious cheeseburger there. So, as we kind of, shift back into your time here on YouTube, you talk about how, you're very active in your local short track scene. You work on late models, that sort of stuff. Give me the rundown of like your career working on late models and how that like how you got involved in that sort of stuff. Cause I know you said you worked in factories as well during your time frame. You got your start in college building your first race car. How did actually working on late models and in the local short track scene actually come about for you?
So I met a guy named Craig Moore. He was racing in the Cars Tour at the time, and I was like, "Hey, man, if you need any help, just let me know." So basically, for the first year, I go over there. I'm helping him, and I'm as green as can be, right? So I'm doing all the menial tasks, all the sort of the gopher work and stuff like that, clean the bottom of the race car, all the stuff nobody really wants to do. And I guess he decided, since I kept coming back after doing that, he would put me on, slightly. It was just another evolutionary process, just slightly doing more and more. And he's real funny about like touching his car. But through him, we were racing in the Cars Tour. We actually got a Cars Tour win at South Boston. But also he crew chiefs for other guys. So we've helped people like Daniel Moss, Landon Pimbleton, Jason Barnes. Let me stop naming names because I'm going to forget somebody. But through that, we won some limited late model championships, a Virginia Sportsman Championship, a bunch of late model races. So not only working on Craig's car, but the various clients that he crew chiefs for and stuff like that. Tate Fogelman, we actually helped Tate Fogelman in the Cars Tour this year, so that was pretty cool. And you just meet, it's all kinds of interesting people. I tell people all the time, like working on race cars and hanging out with the people that travel and work on race cars, you'll meet people you never probably would have talked to in another situation. And it's always like, there's so many interesting stories. Like if anybody ever wanted to do like a podcast on the people that actually work on cars on late models, there's so many stories to tell there. But yeah, it's been a cool deal. Like it was just another evolutionary thing. I just started out, basically cleaning the bottom of a car for Craig Moore, and worked my way up. And I'm still not an expert on it. You're always learning something every day. So it's still just a process.
And how long ago was that you started working on those late model cars?
2015 or 2016, somewhere in there, I want to say.
Okay.
2016, probably 2016, I would say.
So it's been a few years. Do you have a favorite like part of the car you like to work on, or like a favorite, like do you have like a specialty that you have that you like to work on with a car that you've learned as time's gone on?
Not necessarily a favorite, but I've got certain jobs I absolutely hate to do, and if I can like pawn that job off onto somebody, like changing the rear end, and these are quick change rear ends now, so you're not even changing out the hog head or anything like that. It's just the smell of the rear end fluid or grease or whatever. God, it's like some type of sulfur or something. And it's the grossest smell. I can't deal with it. I've done it before and I will do it. I'm not above it, but if I can get somebody else to do that, that's without a doubt my least favorite job. But yeah, it pretty much everything else. Once you get to the track, it's not that bad. I like the worst part is like when a car gets in a wreck and you got to tear the thing down, put it on rollers, load it up on the trailer, take it to the chassis shop or whatever to get it fixed. That's probably the worst job because when it's bent, nothing ever comes off like it's supposed to, and it's just that's usually probably the biggest mess. But I guess that's probably the worst job. But I couldn't tell you necessarily my favorite.
Well, I mean, when your car is wrecked out of a race anyway, you're already in a bad mood because you don't like seeing a wrecked race car coming back. So I'm sure that doesn't help either.
Right. I mean, that's for sure. And here's like the thing: you never wreck when you've got a terrible car. If you got a terrible car, it's going to run every single lap, and it's just going to be miserable that way. But a lot of times when you have a good car, that's when it's going to get in trouble. So it's that's just the way life goes. A lot of times in the short track deal.
Do you feel that there's like a scientific reason for that, for why like you always seem like, well, when you have a car you feel like can get that top 5 or get that win that you've been waiting for so long, all of a sudden it can't get, all of a sudden it wrecks out? Do you feel there's like a scientific reason for that, or is like the racing gods playing games with you or whatever?
You can chalk it up to racing gods. Some people would be like, "Oh, people just race crazy for the lead." But I mean, I feel like people race crazy in mid pack too. But we like whenever we're mid pack, it's hardly ever it hardly ever gets tore up as bad as when you're like sort of in the front. And I don't know. I feel like we've had worse luck in front. So I don't know. I guess racing gods would probably be the answer on that one.
Mm-hmm. And is this what you do? So is working on your short track cars, is that basically your day job when you're not doing YouTube, or is there something, or do you still do other things aside from working on race cars?
So I do help out some other companies with their social media stuff, like recording videos and stuff like that for them. And I do when I most of the time I film the races at Ace Speedway, so just some other stuff to sort of stitch it all together, and then the millions we make on YouTube, of course.
Mm-hmm. Well, that's interesting. So And so as you're working on race cars, you're doing a lot of things. You're working on YouTube as well, that sort of stuff. How do you balance between trying to make sure that you're doing everything you can, with what you're doing personally, and also making sure that you put content together on YouTube? How do you try to balance all of those things together?
So my process is I call up Craig and I'm like, all right, what days do you need me to work this week? And that's typically how that goes. So Craig sets the schedule, and then I'll call everybody else and sort of like try to work around that. And then some days you're like, oh, half a day here at Craig's, half a day, at the other place filming videos. So it's just sort of like that. Then the weekends are just over with. Like Friday, you're going to be at Ace Speedway. Saturday, we race a lot at South Boston this year. So like Friday's Ace Speedway, Saturday South Boston, and then Sunday watching the Cup race. Monday making the recap video, and then Tuesday recovering, I guess.
Man, oh man, so you're busy. That's a busy time. So you're working a lot of long days, but I'm sure it's all worth it for you. I mean, doing stuff that you love.
Yeah, and so that's probably like the coolest part about it. I don't really feel like it's work because I'm doing stuff I like doing. It's a lot of long hours, but at the end of the day, it doesn't always feel like work. I mean, because you're chasing a goal with the racing side of it. You're always trying to win, so it never really feels like work unless you're tearing down a wrecked race car, and you feel like you're working at a body shop. And I like making videos too. So I watched a lot of movies as a kid. So I was always into like videos, and the fact that I don't know how to make a movie necessarily, but the fact that I know how to do some of that stuff now, I'm like, oh my! And so you'll be watching a movie now, and you're like, oh, I know how they did that now. So it's sort of one of those things. So I enjoy both sides of it.
I can relate to that, being someone that's obviously studied like digital media in college and stuff like that. Like I can relate to seeing movies and like realizing like, I know how they made that. I know how this actually happened. I mean, when you learn how to make videos, you never watch movies the same after that. You just never do.
I agree 100%. So probably the coolest one that I learned is, if you remember like the Marvel movies, so when they zoom into the face and then the background is going away, when I actually learned how to do that, I forget what they call it, but they're actually moving the camera forward while also zooming out or zooming in, depending on what they're going for. When I learned, I always thought that was like the coolest effect, and I always thought they did it with CGI, but I was like, they're actually just doing that inside the cameras. And when I figured out how to do that, I was like, that's awesome. It's like, and I'll never be able to do it for myself because I've got to be behind the camera, so I'll have to do that on somebody else.
Well, I mean, it is pretty crazy, like the types of things that people can do with cameras. It's always crazy, like how people are able to like, create the illusion of things. Like, I mean, because at the end of the day, like when you're filming things like that, like it really is like a big illusion to some extent, because you're trying to develop, you're trying to develop the illusion that this is happening when that this is happening, even though it's a completely made up world, a made up storyline. It's definitely one of the most interesting things. Obviously, you don't deal with all of that stuff when you're just filming a YouTube video like you do, but
right.
It's still interesting to see how like you can manipulate, the way you move a camera, the way you zoom in, the way you zoom out, all that sort of stuff.
Oh yeah, for sure. And like probably the first thing I learned, and I was looking at your setup, I was like, he's backlit. I like the way he's using natural light for the light. The first thing I learned was lighting, because my first videos, I looked like it was like a hostage negotiation, like I was sitting in a cave and I was in danger or something. I was like, I probably should put some light on me so people could see who's talking to the camera. So just learning little stuff like that, and once again, you just keep building on that, and that's eventually you learn enough stuff that you're like, man, I've learned a lot of stuff. And like I said, when you watch those, like you watch a Hollywood movie, sometimes you're like, oh, I know what they're doing there.
Yes, that's pretty incredible, and that's pretty awesome. I'm certain do you have like something similar that you think about with race cars as well? Because now that you watched race cars for a long time, you went to the racetrack a lot growing up. Now you're at the racetrack, you're learning how people do things. Like, do you have a totally different? I'm certain you have a totally different perspective now when you watch a Cup race and you see them working on certain things of a race car. And of course, I know Cup cars are not really the same as like a cars you'll see at a local short track, but still, you'll see the way like you have a knowledge now of how these things are built.
Yeah. So when I used to just watch it as a fan, there would be a lot of times where like, I don't understand why they did that. That was, I wouldn't have done that. And that's easy to say when you're just watching a race, but when you're in the middle of it, like everybody thinks that there's this spotter communication and all these people are chiming in. Well, a lot of times, man, if you're like, how come the spotter? The biggest thing to me that I see recently is like, how come the spotter didn't tell him this? Well, like, I mean, if this guy is racing somebody, the spotter doesn't have time to, because the spotter is trying to clear him and keep him out of danger. Spotter doesn't have time to look at what he's doing and then look back here and be like, oh, you know, Ricky Stenhouse Jr. is in 6th. You got to move up 5 spots to make the playoffs or whatever like that. So that's probably the biggest thing to me. You never understand how much work that spotter's doing, and not only that, but you have to have, for the most part, most people like a really calm, smooth voice spotter. You don't want somebody just screaming on the microphone, talking real fast. So the spotter is doing all kinds of mental gymnastics in their head. They're processing information, and they're just talking to you like me and you are talking right now, like absolutely nothing's going on. So it's and I say that because I've been forced. I hate spotting. I don't want to ever spot again. But I've been forced to spot on occasion when like we've had a radio die on the spotter, and I have to climb up on top of the hauler and spot. And it's I don't know if you've ever seen Major League where Bob Uecker is announcing and Bob Uecker passes out and the other guy has to start announcing. So I was kind of like, you're clear. Nothing is around you, and so like that was my first experience spotting, and that's exactly what I felt like, because like I have no idea what I'm doing. This is the most difficult job, and I never want to spot again. So I've got a lot of respect for the spotters, because it is a underrated job for sure, and it's one of the most important jobs, because your spotter can get you just as many spots as your driver if they've got good communication and they work together.
Well, that would make sense given how, you know, especially when you think of a super speedway. I mean, I'm sure you could never imagine what it'd be like to spot at a super speedway, but like how important making the right move is at the right time and how badly it can go wrong if you don't make the right move. So, I mean, I'm certain, I'm certain you never want to be a Cup Series spotter at Talladega in the future, is what I'm gathering from you.
I mean, yeah. Believe it or not, the super speedway would probably not be as bad as a more confined track when there's just everything going on all around you. I feel like on the super speedway you've got a little bit more time because you've got that long straightaway to communicate information. So I don't know. Like I said, no, I don't want any party spotting anywhere, to be totally honest with you.
That makes sense. That makes a lot of sense. So as you're working in late models and that sort of stuff, do you have like a goal for where you want to take that, like as a mechanic or engineer or anything like that? Do you have a plan or a goal for how far you want to take that, or do you just want to stay in your local short track scene?
Yeah, I'm good where I'm at. I'm rolling with Craig until Craig's done, and when Craig's done, I'll go get an adult job again. And but yeah, he's been good to me, and he's a good dude. I can't think of a better person I've met. I've met a lot of really good people in racing, but I can't think of a better person I've met in racing than Craig. He'll bend over backwards, do anything for you, type guy. So I couldn't imagine ever leaving. I couldn't imagine ever leaving where I'm at now, because quite honestly, I wouldn't know jack squat without him basically showing me the ropes and progressing my skills throughout the years.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And, you know, do you have a favorite memory, like a favorite race or like a race win that you've had that's your favorite when you've been on the crew for a race team?
So without a doubt, it was actually, believe it or not, the first race win was with Craig, and it was the Cars Tour at South Boston. And I didn't know how big of a deal it was at the time. But just looking back now, like some of the people in the field that we beat, I mean, there was local guys for sure, like Lee Pulliam, he's a multiple-time national champion, and there was also, I mean, just other guys in the field like that. But there was also some guys at the time you didn't know how big they were going to be. But Josh Berry was in that field, Lane Riggs was in that field, I want to say Ty Gibbs was in that field. I don't know if Corey Heim raced that race or not, but like I said, there's some other guys that like I know all the local guys, and I don't want to like, you know, say them because I guess I'm not a lot of people would know them, but the other guys people would know now. But at the time, you know, you wouldn't necessarily have known them, but they definitely got to bigger heights. So that was my first win. So I feel like my first win will always probably be like the biggest one, and it was in the Cars Tour. So like in the Cars Tour is a huge deal now. It was a big deal back then, but you know, the people that bought into it definitely have to say it's a bigger deal now. And so that was a big one. And probably one of my next bigger memories was this season working at, it wasn't a win by any means, but just working at North Wilkesboro, because that was the first race I ever watched. And I never imagined in my life that I would be working on a car that was racing inside of North Wilkesboro, being a little kid, just watching the cars on the outside. So that was a surreal moment, crazy. So those are probably my two, as it stands right now, two of my favorite memories. And then, of course, last year watching the race when Marcus Smith and Dale Jr. and all them brought it back for just the late model deal.
Well, that was incredible. So, North Wilkesboro was your first race. What year was that, out of curiosity? Your first race at North Wilkesboro?
Oh man, I can't call it. I want to say like 86 or 88, somewhere in there. But Dale Sr. and Ricky Rudd were going for the lead, and Ricky Rudd bumped Dale Earnhardt out of the way, and Dale Earnhardt returned the favor. But because Ricky Rudd lacked car control, I was an Earnhardt fan. Ricky Rudd lacked car control. When he got bumped, he spun out. Like, Earnhart didn't do anything different than Ricky Rudd did, but Earnhardt got black flagged for it. To this day, I'm still mad about that, because Earnhardt would have won that race, and I would have seen him win my first race I went to. But so they get black flagged and they go to the back of the pack, and then Jeff Bodine and Rusty Wallace in the 27 Kodiak car. I don't know how many people remember that one. But they put on an absolute battle for the win, and Rusty Wallace ends up getting the win. So my first race I went to, Rusty Wallace wins, and it's just one of those finishes. I wish I could remember the year so I could tell you to look it up. Just look up the very finish of it. It's one of the closest finishes you'll ever see, and they're just like beating and banging, going for it. Kind of like Austin Hill and Sheldon Creed, except one of them actually won.
Well, that's something I'll have to look up on NASCAR Classic sometime a little bit later to see what type of a race that was. That's pretty incredible seeing, and obviously North Wilkesboro coming back's been a really great thing and that sort of stuff. So, and it's interesting because you've seen and the Cars Tour has seen in recent years how NASCAR has begun to, how NASCAR and a lot of people associated with it have begun to kind of go back to their short track roots and begun to, form these partnerships and been able, like, for example, like bringing the Cars Tour and ASA in the same week at North Wilkesboro. What's that been like for you guys in within this field to see people like Dale Earnhardt Jr. and Kevin Harvick to come in and invest in the Cars Tour, and to see, how people are starting to invest in local short track racing?
I'm really happy that they've made the decision to do that, because I look at it like if Major League Baseball is kind of what I always go back to. It's just as fun to go to a Major League Baseball game as it is to go to like a AAA or AA or single A game. I remember like going to the Durham Bulls games. It was really awesome, and that's sort of now that it's being more of an emphasis and focus on building driver development, driver talent, and stuff like that. These guys racing at the local short tracks, it's really honestly like back in the day, because back in the day you would see guys if they were in the local area. Kyle Busch is probably the most famous example. Kyle Busch, Kyle Larson. If they're in the area, they're gonna find a place to race at, and it's sort of similar now, except you've got more guys doing it, because I guess I feel like the corporate aspect of it was sort of keeping people out. They didn't want people to get hurt or whatever. But it's good that sort of a understanding has been met, that if we go to the local short tracks, that's going to build up the fan base again. And I think it's overall just a good thing for the sport. Rambled a little bit, but that was my overall point.
Well, it's interesting, and it's been cool to see kind of how NASCAR has begun to develop those sorts of things. And I think it'll be, I'm all for seeing NASCAR partnering up more with those types of series at different racetracks. Like, I'd love to see, like, I think I posed this on Daily Downforce a while ago. It'd be really cool if we had, like, if maybe for the spring race at Martinsville, you could have a full week of just local short tracks, like bring in late models, legend cars, all that sort of stuff, just to come in and race at Martinsville for the week leading up to a Cup weekend. I'd be all for that. I think that'd be cool. I wonder if you would feel the same way about that.
Yeah, they did. They basically did something similar for the All-Star. I know they do the modifieds right before the Cup race, but then you've got that. I feel like you've got a Thursday or a Friday where you could get some late models in there. The late models do race at Martinsville. They just do it like maybe a week or two before. And we've been to the Martinsville race. We haven't had any good luck there. I think we were running really good one time. We were running like 12th, and the alternator went out. And it's just it's like Martinsville. It's the biggest race, and we always have bad luck. But yeah, I agree with you 100%, man. If they could get super late models, late models, the modifieds. That would be a great build-up event, and I really would love it if they ran trucks in Xfinity both weekends when they run the Cup Series down there.
Yeah, absolutely. So, as we turn back towards YouTube here, looking at kind of like as time goes on, we talked a little bit earlier about how your content might evolve as time goes on with the way that the media landscape is changing and that sort of stuff. What are your kind of like overall prospects for the future of you working in YouTube and that sort of stuff, and what you want to try to do with the content that you have currently?
I just kind of go off what people tell me in the comments. And right now, a lot of people seem to like streaming. So I'm thinking about doing some more streaming in the future. I'm thinking about it's hard to do more videos, but I'm actually thinking about trying to do more videos for the channel. Just try to be sort of consistent, like Iceberg does 5 days a week. I try to do 3 to 4 days a week. So I try to bump it up to at least 5 days, sort of match guys like that. Just trying to do more content, and definitely I think the group that watches my stuff really likes the streaming stuff, so I need to figure out a regular streaming schedule. I do Tuesdays and Sundays now, but I need to figure out like maybe another day at a different time, because I do get a lot of feedback that, hey, we love your live stream, we wish we could actually watch it live because you're doing it at this time, so maybe figure out a time to give those other people an opportunity to watch it live so they can comment and get their 2 cents in.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. I've seen, the fact that you do your streams and that sort of stuff. And, I mean, it is definitely, it's interesting to see how like, content is evolving and that sort of stuff, and how that sort of stuff's becoming more important, nowadays and with all that sort of stuff. So, I mean, we've kind of talked about how, you're kind of filling that gap of like being, like the more, short and sweet NASCAR news type of a person and that sort of stuff. And you're kind of developing that. And then those streams, I would assume, kind of give you the opportunity to maybe expand in some areas that maybe you weren't that you can't necessarily do in a YouTube video. And so, and also allowing you the opportunity to interact with fans, that sort of stuff. So, how did the idea for streaming come about, and what types of stuff do you look to get out of those usually?
Somebody said in one of the comments on one of my videos, like, how come you never stream? And then from that comment, like there was like 12 other people that talked underneath that comment too. And I was like, well, I guess I should start streaming, huh? So I made a deal. I think it was like if I hit 1,000 subscribers, I'll start streaming or something like that, because I was really close. It was only like 200 or something away at that time. So I was like, I felt good that I would hit it. So once I hit 1,000, I was like, all right, I'll start streaming, and that stream went really well. My only nervousness about streaming, I had this like terrible paranoia that I was like, I'm going to go on here to stream and I'm going to be talking to myself. Nobody is going to show up. So that was my big fear. But once I overcame that, the first stream, there was a lot of people there, so it was pretty cool, and I had no idea what I was doing. Once again, one of those things you had to smooth out and figure it out as you went. But it's become really fun, and it became just sort of a really cool thing that I really wish I'd always been doing, to be honest with you. Because one of my favorite memories is watching back in the day, after the race ended, you could just walk down on the track and you would go talk to the drivers and they would sign autographs for hours and hours. Totally different now. Now you do it basically before the race. You have a little zone where they'll walk by and you. But it used to be after the race back in the day. And I remember I watched Richard Petty sit there and sign autographs, I swear, for like 2 hours straight. And he wasn't just like signing autographs, he was talking to the people. And I was like, it kind of reminds me of that. And it just, it's a good way to actually meet people and see what they think about NASCAR. It gives you a better perspective of just sitting in my room and mentally thinking what I think about it. I like to be challenged with what other people think about it too, because my opinion's not always right. And that's what I say all the time. I was like, oh, that's a good point. I'd never thought about it that way. So I love that aspect of it, because it gives me a better perspective of what everybody thinks about the sport as it stands, or whatever topic I'm talking about.
Yeah, it's an interesting way to interact with fans and to be able to have that ability to do the ability to talk with them and things like that. So, have you ever, how much have you done with maybe like some of your fans at the racetrack? I know you went to the Martinsville race. I know that, and I know that you had to record a video at, I think you said 4 o'clock in the morning or something along those lines to to react to the Sheldon Creed Austin Hill drama. But
thank you, Sheldon Creed and Austin Hill.
Absolutely. So, have you ever done anything at the racetrack with your fans and that sort in that aspect?
I don't like I don't ever set up anything. I did I bumped into Danny B Talks at this one, and he gave me a really good idea. He was like, you should start going. Bob Pockers has a tweet up. He's like, you should start going to the tweet ups. I was like, because you're probably going to see more people there than anywhere. But other than that, I've just sort of like randomly bumped into people, and well before, like I don't know, I might have had 1,000 subscribers or something. I remember the first time somebody walked up to me. It was at Martinsville, and I was like, oh my God, somebody it was. I had never thought about it. I was just like, I just make YouTube videos, in this little room right here. It had never clicked in my head that people watch them like on the other side and they know who you are. I was like, it was so crazy, but it was really cool. The guy's name was Dennis, and I remember meeting him. I think he was from West Virginia, so that was the first guy I met. And ironically, Martinsville, the last person I met, a guy named Chris from Knoxville. He had a really cool mullet, like it was super 90s. So good hair, Chris. Keep that going. He had the like little razor thing shaved into the side of it. He had put a lot of time into that haircut, so it was a good looking haircut, man. Keep it going, Chris in Knoxville, I want to say. But I've never actually set anything up yet. I just don't feel like I'm big enough to do that. And so I just try to meet people as I'm walking around. But Danny B did give me some good advice to just go to the tweet ups with Bob Pockris, and I'll probably see a lot of people there that are into the channel.
Yeah, those are definitely. I haven't made my way to a tweet up yet. Hopefully, at some point, I will sometime next season, whenever we get back to the racetrack. But that would definitely be interesting. So, what are your overall, as you're developing, as you're starting to do, as you branch out, do different things like streaming, that sort of stuff, do you have any do you have like a subscriber like ultimate goal for YouTube, like an ultimate dream for like, as a YouTuber, as a NASCAR YouTuber, this is what I would love and would absolutely want to do?
Already surpassed it. Never thought I would get 10,000. When I went over 10,000, I was like, wow. Like, I mean, like, I don't know. I guess because the first year of the channel, like nothing happens, like nothing's happening. So I was literally just making it because I wanted a community to talk about racing. So like that's probably the other thing about late model stock cars. A lot of those guys, they don't want to talk about the Cup Series because they're locked into what they're doing, and they're like, we don't care about that Cup Series stuff. We just like what we're doing here, and I totally get it. And it's totally understandable. But I'm into it, and I wanted to talk about it. So that's actually probably a big reason that the channel went the way it went. I just wanted to talk to. I wanted to have a community, and now I've got a huge community. I got plenty of people to talk to about NASCAR, and that's super awesome. And yeah, I would love to have more to talk about it too, but I don't have any specific goals for that. I just think it's super cool, and I feel like most of the people that are there, especially on the live streams, they're just people like me that their friends might not necessarily be into NASCAR, but we've got a little side quest over here that we can talk about NASCAR, on the live streams, and you get it out of your system over there.
Absolutely. And Eric talked about it on the very first episode of Next Gen Creators, how great it is to have a community. And he talked about specifically having a community of younger NASCAR fans to be able to talk with the sport about. And, sometimes, that's what a lot of people sometimes are searching for, is they're just looking for somewhere to go where they can talk about NASCAR because, it's NASCAR is a niche sport. That's just what it is. It's niche. It's not something that everybody's a fan of, but it is a sport that is popular. There are a lot of fans out there that like it. And so as a result, creating a platform for people to talk about it is always something that people look forward to.
Yeah, for sure. And that's probably the most, I wasn't I watched videos on YouTube, but I wasn't super familiar with YouTube. And that's probably the thing that surprised me the most about YouTube is it is a community. Once the channel gets going, it is a community of people that are just there to talk about the topics that you put out that day or whatever. And I still try to, I can't keep up with them like I used to, but I still try to keep up with all the comments. I try to answer as many of them as I can, because I feel like that's Richard Petty, signing his autograph and have a conversation with every fan that walks up. I do try to answer every comment. I do try to answer when the chats are going. I do try to read every single chat that I can read, and I answer as many of them as I can. And sometimes sometimes it's such a good question. It's like, I don't know the answer to that. So I'm not afraid to say that either. I was like, but the community aspect of it is something I totally overlooked when I first started doing it, because I had no idea what I was doing.
Was there a moment where you realized like how much of a community that YouTube is, and how much of a community that you were able to build there?
Yeah, so North Wilkesboro last year, or maybe it's 2 years ago now. I don't know. Maybe a year. Well, I can't. I'm not good. Space and time, not good. But the Cars tour, when the racetrack revival at North Wilkesboro, I saw so many people there that were, oh, you're Bologna Burger. Oh, you're Bologna Burger. Yeah, nice to meet you. And I was like, oh my God. I was like, this many people know who I am. It was once again surreal. Like I was telling you with the first person that met me, Dennis. It was so surreal that many people knew who I was, and I was like, man, this is insane. I still to this day can't wrap my head around it. Like, I'm just talking from my aspect, I'm just talking into a camera and I'm answering comments, and it just it's so different when people come up to you, and it's just it's very humbling, I guess is all I can say. I never imagined people would know who I am. And I'm super humbled, and I'm always, I think I try probably sometimes to over talk to them sometimes, because sometimes I think they just want to say, hey, and I'm like, hey, how you doing? Where are you from? Like, I'm so hyped up to meet them because they just don't understand. I actually have someone to talk to NASCAR about, and I'm pumped up about it. So I don't know, but I'm super humbled. I never, in my wildest dreams, I never thought this channel would do what it's doing right now.
Absolutely, and the channel's doing great things, and it's continuing to grow as time goes on there. And thank you so much, Kyle Bologna Burger, for joining us here today on Next Gen Creators. And it was really cool to hear you talk about how important things like community are to you, education on how late models work and how working on race cars works, that sort of stuff. Really cool, really insightful conversations, and very excited to see you hopefully pretty soon becoming a part of the Daily Downforce family, and also just continuing to grow as a content creator.
Yeah, I appreciate it, man. And you're doing great things. You just popped up on my radar maybe like 2 or 3 weeks ago, and I was like, man, this guy's doing good. I love what you're doing. So you keep doing it on your end.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it, folks. Bologna Burger here on Next Gen Creators. Great interview there with Bologna Burger today on Next Gen Creators. That was a ton of fun, him talking about a community at the end there and how much he loves his community on YouTube, getting some insight into what it's like to be working on a race team, given the fact that he's done so much work in late models and places like the Cars Tour and things like that. Really exciting to hear all of those things there from Bologna Burger. Thank you so much for joining in here to this episode of Next Gen Creators, a Daily Downforce podcast where we talk about the next generation of NASCAR content creators. Be sure to give us a follow on social media at Daily Downforce on Twitter, at Daily Downforce on Instagram, The Daily Downforce on Facebook as well. And also be sure to check out dailydownforce.com for some great daily NASCAR content. We thank you so very much for tuning in here to this episode of Next Gen Creators with Bologna Burger. I'm Joshua Lepowski signing off for now. We hope you have a great day.